or visit a Spectrum store today.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Good morning, I'm Bree Driscoll, and here's your Spectrum News in 90. The House of Representatives passes a budget blueprint advancing President Donald Trump's agenda. It proposes an $880 billion reduction in health and energy programs over a decade and additional border security funding. Trump says Medicare cuts are off the table, though Republicans are saying it's hard to make the resolution's math work without affecting Medicaid. Now the Senate and House will negotiate to reach a final agreement. The Vatican says Pope Francis had a quiet night and is resting. Today is the Pope's 13th day in a Roman hospital. Yesterday, the Holy See press office said the 88-year-old remains in critical but stable condition as he battles double pneumonia. Last night in St. Peter's Square, Filipino Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle led a rosary with hundreds gathering to pray for Pope Francis's healing. Dramatic video captures a near collision between a Southwest Airlines plane and a private jet on a runway at Chicago Midway International Airport yesterday. The Southwest flight crew had to perform a last-minute maneuver to prevent a potential accident. It was the latest in a string of aviation incidents. Diana Taurasi says she is retiring from the WNBA. The basketball legend is the league's all-time leading scorer. She spent her entire career with the Phoenix Mercury. That's your Spectrum News in 90.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Weather on the Ones forecast. More spring-like weather continuing across the southeast as high temperatures run about 10 to 20 degrees above the average, reaching the middle and upper 70s. We'll be at 78 in Atlanta, 79 in Orlando, and we'll reach the mid-70s across the Raleigh area. We do have another shot of cooler air for the northern plains into parts of the northeast. We'll talk about that in more detail coming up in 10 minutes on your Weather on the Ones.
I'm Bree Driscoll, and thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. Today is Wednesday, February 26th. Our top story, the House of Representatives passes a budget blueprint advancing President Donald Trump's agenda. It proposes an $880 billion reduction in health and energy programs over the next decade and additional border security funding. Trump says Medicare cuts are off the table, though Republicans are saying it's hard to make the resolution's math work without affecting Medicaid. Now the Senate and House will negotiate to reach a final agreement. Our Angie Gonzalez has the story from Washington.
Initially, a handful of Republican holdouts indicated they could not support the budget framework put forth by House Speaker Mike Johnson. By the end of the night, President Donald Trump reached out to those members, and the measure narrowly passed in a vote of 217 in favor to 215 against.
The resolution is adopted.
Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky was the only Republican to vote with all Democrats against the budget framework. He said he was concerned it would add to the deficit and that it didn't include enough spending cuts. Democrats oppose what they say will be steep cuts to Medicare, cuts President Trump says are off the table.
That's the program that insures 24% of Americans in order to fund a tax cut for billionaires and corporations.
The proposal includes $4.5 trillion in tax breaks and $2 trillion in spending cuts. It also includes new energy and border security funding.
This is the first important step in opening up the reconciliation process. We have a lot of hard work ahead of us, but we are going to deliver the America First agenda.
Passage of the bill now starts a weeks-long process which culminates by merging it with the Senate version of the proposal. The legislation is also facing opposition in the upper chamber.
This is not, in fact, what the American people want, not in red states, not purple states, not blue states.
The legislation must first go before several House committees that'll work on ironing out the details of the package. In Washington, Angie Gonzalez, Spectrum News.
President Trump signs an executive order requiring hospitals and health plans to provide clearer pricing information. Hospitals will have to maintain a customer-friendly display of pricing information for up to 300 shoppable services. Health plans must include a customer-facing internet tool through which individuals can access price information. According to analysis from the White House, the new regulations could result in as much as $80 billion in healthcare savings. Millions of former public workers will see more money in their Social Security payments. The agency reports recipients who received pensions from their time as teachers, firefighters, police officers, and other public service jobs will see the boost. Most will receive a one-time retroactive payment by the end of March. New monthly payments will begin in April. Another scary incident on the runways as a Southwest airplane almost crashes into a private plane at Chicago Midway International Airport. Our Jenna Enoch explains.
Really a scary event.
A potential devastating crisis averted. As you see here, a Southwest Airlines plane and private jet came close to colliding in Chicago. The Southwest flight crew performing a go-around to prevent a potential accident.
The Southwest 737 was already in final landing mode.
I just feel very thankful for who we had flying our plane.
The crew is being hailed heroes. It's the latest in a string of aviation incidents, leaving many who fly on edge. In January, a mid-air collision of a passenger jet and Army helicopter near Ronald Reagan Washington Airport killed 67 people. Days later, a crash in Philadelphia killed 7. Then a plane crash in Alaska left 10 dead. A private plane then ran off the runway in Arizona, killing the pilot. And the latest incident, a Delta Airlines plane landed upside down in Toronto just last week, injuring several people. As far as yesterday's incident, the FAA is investigating, but a preliminary investigation indicates the private jet entered the runway without authorization.
I always say a prayer before I travel all the time anyway, which is good. And then, of course, said another little prayer after they accelerated, because I knew there was something not right.
The crew landed without incident after following safety procedures. A Southwest spokesperson releasing this statement saying, quote, "The crew followed safety procedures and the flight landed without incident." FlexJet, the company operating the private jet, said it is gathering more information on the situation, end quote. Jenna Enoch, Spectrum News.
The Vatican says the Pope had a quiet night and is resting. Today is the Pope's 13th day in a Roman hospital. Yesterday, the Holy See press office said the 88-year-old remains in critical but stable condition as he battles double pneumonia. Francis underwent a follow-up CAT scan yesterday to check the lung infection, but officials didn't provide details of what the scan showed. Doctors say the Pope's prognosis remains guarded. Last night in St. Peter's Square, Filipino Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle led a rosary with hundreds gathering to pray for Pope Francis's healing. A new strain of coronavirus has been detected in bats. According to a study published last week in the scientific journal Cell, the latest strain was discovered by Chinese scientists. They found the strain can infect humans similarly to COVID-19. So far, there have been no reported infections in humans. At this time, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have not deemed it a threat to public health. Israeli and Hamas officials say they have reached an agreement to exchange the bodies of dead hostages for the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. The deal keeps their fragile ceasefire intact for at least a few more days. Israel delayed the release of 600 Palestinian prisoners since Saturday to protest what it says is the cruel treatment of hostages during the release by the militant group. The breakthrough appears to clear the way for the return of the bodies of 4 more dead hostages and hundreds of additional prisoners scheduled to be released under the deal. Coming up here on Spectrum News, a closer look at the man the president picked for FBI Deputy Director, where Dan Bongino came from and what he hopes to achieve.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. and get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app.
I really am in the middle of nowhere. Every day is different. Chores, come on, homeschooling, and then I fit in the rug business. I just got a new batch of rugs that I'd love to show you. I have a website, and a lot of what I do is sharing my home life. Mommy's leaving. Reliable, high-speed internet is the foundation of our business. Spectrum was great. They went out of their way to make sure that I was okay and I was taken care of. Shoo! And that's the awesomeness of having Spectrum.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your weather on the Ones forecast. We are tracking a couple Clipper systems working its way across the Great Lakes into parts of the Northeast as we head into the second half of this week. These aren't going to be high impact storms, though, by any means, bringing in rain and even a few snow showers for parts of the Northeast as we get into the next 24 to 48 hours. We're mainly quiet, though, across the rest of the country with dry conditions in store for us and spring-like weather as well. Temperatures are going to continue to run about 10 to 20 degrees above the average before a cool down arrives as we head into the weekend. So all is quiet across the southern half of the United States. That's where spring is really going to be felt, and we're watching this Clipper system working its way across the northern plains into parts of the Great Lakes region as well, bringing rain and even some mixed wintry precipitation for that matter as well. But this isn't going to be causing any major issues as we head into the next day or so. But this system is going to continue to work its way off to the north and east, bringing some rain around lunchtime into that evening commute across the Ohio Valley into parts of Pennsylvania, where we could see some snowflakes mixing in for that matter as well, but not expecting any major snowfall accumulations. However, for a place like Maine up towards New Hampshire and Vermont, we could see some snowfall accumulations, and this will be arriving around that morning commute as we get towards Thursday. So keep that in mind. You definitely want to allow for some extra time before heading out the door. And this will also bring a few more showers along the eastern coast, not much by any means, and we're expecting less than 1/4 inch of rainfall as we head towards the end of the day Thursday. And then we're dry and quiet for Friday. High pressure builds back in, but colder air is going to follow right behind the storm system, which will drop our temperatures down for the weekend. And you'll notice that on the 3-day forecast for Columbus. A few showers today and into our Thursday, and then we'll remain in the mid-50s on Friday, and then that colder air arrives just in time for the weekend as temperatures drop back down to the upper 30s with clouds in place. Same case for Kansas City. We have been very mild the last couple of days. We're going to approach the low 70s on Friday and then dropping back down into the upper 40s as we head into this upcoming weekend. And we have more colder weather to talk about. We'll break it down for you coming up in 10 minutes.
Look at what you need to know. The House passes a budget blueprint advancing President Trump's agenda. It includes $4.5 trillion in tax breaks and $2 trillion in spending cuts. The Senate and House still need to negotiate a final agreement. The Vatican says Pope Francis had a quiet night and is resting. The 88-year-old remains in critical but stable condition. And dramatic video captures a near collision between a Southwest Airlines plane and a private jet on the runway at Chicago Midway International Airport yesterday. And that's a look at what you need to know. New details have emerged about the shooting at a Pennsylvania hospital that left one police officer dead. According to a social media post by a physician assistant at the hospital, the gunman became enraged after learning there was no other treatment available for his wife, who was on life support. The PA claims the man appeared, quote, broken. The incident Saturday began as a hostage situation and ended in the death of one police officer and the shooter, who were both killed in a shootout. A doctor, nurse, custodian, and two police officers all suffered gunshot wounds and are expected to recover. A funeral service for the fallen officer, Andrew Duarte, will be held later this week. President Donald Trump says the U.S. will begin selling what he describes as a gold card to wealthy foreigners. It will give them the right to live and work in the United States and will offer a path to citizenship in exchange for a $5 million fee.
You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people, and we think it's going to be extremely successful.
Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says the card will replace the government's EB-5 Immigrant Investor Visa program. Trump says the sale of the cards will begin in about 2 weeks. President Trump's first cabinet meeting will feature a controversial cameo. Tech billionaire Elon Musk will join Trump for the administration's first cabinet meeting today. Musk's attendance comes amid confusion over emails sent to federal employees last week, asking them to list their accomplishments. Musk has been the face of the administration's newly created U.S. DOGE service. However, the White House yesterday identified Amy Gleason as the acting leader of DOGE and not Musk. This morning, we're taking a closer look at President Trump's pick for FBI Deputy Director. Dan Bongino is a former NYPD officer and Secret Service agent. He's also one of Trump's most vocal supporters. Spectrum's Bobby Kuza reports.
Conservative commentator Dan Bongino has for years railed against the FBI and its perceived abuses of power.
The FBI is lost. It's broken. Irredeemably corrupt at this point.
Now Bongino will have a chance to change things as the FBI's deputy director, its second highest ranking position, which has traditionally been held by a career FBI agent. Bongino's primary qualification, like that of new FBI Director Kash Patel, appears to be a fierce loyalty to President Donald Trump. This was Bongino after the classified documents raid at Mar-a-Lago.
Fire anyone involved in the raid. I don't want to hear any more rank and file stuff. I was the rank and file. If you played any role in this raid, you should be gone. It's time to clean house. And yes, I'm saying it.
Bongino spent his formative years in the Queens neighborhood of Glendale, attending Archbishop Malloy High School and Queens College, then serving 2 years as an NYPD officer in the late 90s, an experience he frequently cites.
I used to do a 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. tour in one of the busiest precincts in New York.
I remember my police academy class in the NYPD. The 7-5 precinct, which was East New York, Brooklyn, was very busy. There was a drug war going on.
Bongino then served 12 years in the Secret Service, including on the presidential detail, before trying his hand at politics.
I'm Dan Bongino, candidate for Congress in Maryland's 6th Congressional District.
After 3 unsuccessful runs for Congress in Maryland and Florida, he turned to commentary, eventually rocketing to right-wing stardom as a radio, TV, and podcast host, at times opining on New York issues.
Listen, a lot of people know Eric Adams. No, politics first, public safety second for Eric Adams.
Bongino has promoted baseless conspiracy theories, including about election fraud, and along the way caught the attention of Trump, who has now given him broad authority over an agency he has long maligned.
He understands the depth of the corruption at these institutions, which the American people re-elected President Trump to shake up.
We're going to reestablish faith in this institution. And the good people there doing their job, hitting the streets, developing sources. We'll have your back.
Bobby Kuza, Spectrum News.
Just ahead, WNBA star Diana Taurasi making major career news after nearly 2 decades in the sport.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Starting a business is hard. You have to stay connected at all times.
As we've been growing the studio, Spectrum's been there every step of the way. I'm always able to make the phone call that I need. I'm able to shoot that text message or that email. Every vital piece of equipment that we have here uses Spectrum.
Fast, reliable internet, starting at $40 a month, backed by the Spectrum commitment to keep your business connected.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/act now.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Weather on the Ones forecast. We are halfway through the week and we're not nearly as active weather-wise as we were last week at this time, dealing with multiple winter storms bringing impacts all across the lower 48. This week, though, we are watching a couple clipper systems that are going to continue to bring some liquid precipitation, so mostly rain from the northern plains across the Great Lakes region and eventually working its way into the northeast as we head into the day on Thursday. So not expecting any significant impacts associated with this system, but this is pretty much where the only active weather is across the entire country as with this storm system. So as we get into the day, the overnight hours tonight, we're going to see the system work its way off to the north and east, bringing some snowfall across the greater Portland area through New Hampshire, Vermont as we get into Thursday morning. This isn't an all-day type of event, and this is going to continue to work its way off the coast with perhaps a few showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder across portions of the southeast as we get into the end of the day Thursday. But by Friday, we're dry and quiet. Take a look at the Central Plains. We have plenty of sunshine in the forecast, but this system to our north and west approaching from Canada will be bringing us another shot of some colder air. So enjoy the spring-like weather while it is here. We have highs in the middle and upper 70s across the southeast, upper 70s down towards Tampa, 75 in Atlanta, and how about the mid-60s across the Central Plains? These temperatures are running about 15 to 20 plus degrees above the average for this time of year. Very toasty indeed, and the next couple of days will remain in that 15 to 20 degree range, especially as we get towards Friday. In Kansas City, we'll be approaching the low 70s, about 18 plus degrees above the average as we get into Friday afternoon in Chicago. And you'll notice by Saturday, we're starting to see the below normal temperatures returning as that Arctic air returns from Canada. And this is going to be bringing another taste of winter across the Central Plains and eventually working its way eastward as we head into this upcoming weekend. So Friday is going to be the pick day this week to get outdoors and enjoy that nice taste of spring because watch what happens as that cold air makes a return. This is getting into the day on Saturday, approaching. You see those shades of pink and blue. That is indicative of some very colder Arctic air progressing to the south and east, even as far south as portions of the Carolinas as we close out this upcoming weekend. So winter is going to return, and we're going to stay pretty mild and dry across portions of the southwest, though, where high temperatures will remain in the upper 70s and the low 80s. And with spring right around the corner, you may be noticing the increase in daylight out there. Places like Portland, Maine, seeing that sunset time around 5:30. In a couple of weeks, we'll be dealing with 6:30 and post 7 p.m. sunsets right around the corner.
One of the WNBA's finest is about to hang up her jersey for good. Legendary basketball player Diana Taurasi announcing her retirement yesterday. The move comes nearly 2 decades after she made her professional debut. Considered one of the best players of all time, the 42-year-old spent her entire career with the Phoenix Mercury. There she helped the team nab WNBA championships in 2007, 2009, and 2014. She's the league's all-time leading scorer with over 10,000 lifetime points. During her tenure, she also nabbed 6 Olympic gold medals. That's more gold medals than any other basketball player in Olympic history, male or female. A marketing firm says Taylor Swift has brought in $1 billion worth of publicity to the NFL. Apex Marketing provides brand analytics. It tracked how often Swift and the NFL were mentioned together since her game day debut in September 2023. The launch of her relationship with Kansas City Chiefs star Travis Kelce and her record-breaking Eras Tour amplified the media exposure. Continue to celebrate Black History Month throughout February. We turn now to music. A documentary about reggae and its connection to hip-hop brought different cultures together. Spectrum's Dean Meminger takes us to the Bronx.
Celebrating the roots of reggae music and its impact on other cultures.
The Caribbean contribution to this city and to the United States and to the world is amazing. And in the Bronx, of course, how it affected hip-hop. So it's super important, the sounds of what you're hearing in the background.
We'll get back to that hip-hop connection in a minute. But first, at the Bronx Music Hall, this was a celebration of Reggae Music Month, which coincides with Black History Month. They held the New York premiere of the 2019 documentary Studio 17, The Lost Reggae Tapes. Studio 17 was inside Randy's Records in Kingston, Jamaica. Several legendary artists, including Bob Marley and the Wailers, Dennis Brown, Peter Tosh, and Gregory Isaacs recorded there.
It gives us an insight into our heritage and our tradition, our music that we don't even know about. So this is amazing.
Randy's Records was founded by Vincent and Pat Chin, a Chinese-Jamaican couple. They moved to New York in the late 1970s and set up VP Records in Queens. It became the world's largest independent distributor of reggae music. Now back to that great connection between Jamaica, reggae, and hip-hop.
Kool Herc, a Jamaican kid from Jamaica, came here, strung up a sound system, and that has been dubbed the first ever hip-hop party. And there we go, hip-hop's born. So you gotta know where you came from.
And Kool Herc, who threw that party in the Bronx in August of 1973, was at this celebration.
I'm included. I'm glad to be here, man. I was glad to be there. They didn't forget me.
The fact that we have a month that's dedicated to Black history as well as reggae music is wonderful, because the two things can go in tandem and should go in tandem for all time, so that we continue to spread the philosophy of reggae music.
Some here say events that bring multiple cultures together to learn are significant and should not be just for Black History Month.
It's every day, because it's our history, our culture, and our experience that we're living every day in America. And of course, we share that with our brothers and sisters in Jamaica.
In the Bronx, Dean Meminger, Spectrum News.
A melting pot of music in New York. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. And my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
It's
It's game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. And with Spectrum Business committed to keeping them connected 100% of the time, they won't miss a second of the action. A secure, reliable connection from Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Sometimes in life, in order to move forward, it helps to look back. To learn from the pioneers and trailblazers.
To gain inspiration from those who came before us.
To show us what it means to act with empathy and to show that love has no labels.
Join WWE and Love Has No Labels throughout the year in celebrating people from all communities and heritages.
Because when love has no labels, that's a love we can all fight for.
Women are bad with money. That's what the world's been saying for centuries. But now we've got something to say. Save it.
It's time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Until we're no longer 80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
Save it. The falsehoods, the feelings of fault.
Then, the funds. Learn how to save for your retirement at WeSaySaveIt.org.